welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot. Yes, we are finally gotten to in-studio video at my own podcast studio here at the Maison Projects. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I get to interview phenomenal Black women, and I am so delighted that I finally get the incredible Keia Clarke, who's the CEO of the New York Liberty, here in studio at the Maison Projects to talk about her incredible life story, how she got here, and a lot more amazing things. So I cannot wait for you all to take a listen. Hey, Keia, welcome to the Reset Podcast.
How are you, Laura?
Oh, just talking away, interviewing people. Very excited to be in studio with you.
Same.
So as you've probably seen, the very first question is always the same. Answer is always awesome. Sure, yours will be no different. Keia, what's your all-time favorite job?
It's kind of a trick question, right? For me, I think most people, I won't say what most people do, but easy for me. I'm doing my dream job. It wasn't a dream, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later, but quickly, once the WNBA women's professional basketball bug bit, I couldn't get away. So I love it so much that I'm actually entering my 19th year in this career on a journey. But the job itself, I don't know if there's anything sweeter than being able to be at the helm for the women's pro team in New York City at a time such as this.
I mean, it's one of the coolest, most amazing sports franchises in the entire world. And I need to know how you got to be here. What was the journey like? How did you get here?
Yeah, feels like a long time. I guess I'll start with the journey as I always do. I was a basketball player, and that's important, I think, in that my passion, my love, but mostly my dedication to women's basketball in particular really spawned from me being a little girl who played basketball and ultimately a collegiate athlete. All the while from age 8 through college, not ever really being able to see myself in a sports career or even working in professional sports at all, let alone women's sports. So that journey really looks a little something like I graduate from school. I landed a role at the Basketball Hall of Fame, believe it or not. I grew up in Connecticut. Springfield's not too far away. I'd always visit the Hall of Fame with my mom as a little hooper. And lo and behold, right at graduation, I was afforded an opportunity to sell tickets at the Basketball Hall of Fame. So I was an account executive and really had a crash course just in the business of a sports museum, in sales, intro to sales pretty much, but mostly just this notion that basketball had all these other tentacles. And so as a result of that position, I decided to pursue a master's degree in sports management specifically. So I was marketing all the way through. I wanted to be a marketer. I thought I'd be a marketer, likely at an insurance company or some other, brand, but not in sports. But then I moved to New York to go to NYU. And while I was at NYU, I actually worked at Golf Digest, Condé Nast. I worked on the magazine side. So in publishing, I was an assistant and then I was an analyst. And it was at that time that I discovered this love and this interest. I can't even say love yet. An interest in women's sports specifically. So I worked, as I said, for Golf Digest, but I sort of transferred over to work for Golf for Women. And it just dawned on me, it hit me, why am I working on a women's golf title when I'm a hooper? I'm a basketball player.
Let's get this basketball stuff here.
So I wrote my thesis on the WNBA, and as I was finishing that degree, and was super fortunate to meet someone at the league office who she was a vice president level on the front office of the WNBA league. And I ended up working for her for the beginning of my career. And as they say, the rest is history.
I love this so much because I think it's so important for folks who want to be in sports, have no idea how to even get their toes dipped in. And this is, again, early days of, as opposed to now we have social media and all these different ways to get in, but finding your path and that sort of being the guiding force of it all. So you're a CEO, and you have been for quite a while. What's that road been like? Because the WNBA has obviously, lots of people are suddenly discovering the WNBA, and I'm like, where were y'all in 97? Because I was. as a former hooper myself,
Yes.
but I only went through halfway through high school. But like, it was a joy to see the league, and it's super awesome to see it now in this exploding bucket. And now there's so much more and so many opportunities. There's also non-rivaled, and I think it's all playing into like, yeah, everyone watches women's sports. But like from you being on the inside, how has everything changed? Say like the last few years.
Yeah, I'll put it plainly, everything has changed. I didn't start as CEO, so my POV is very different when I think about what it meant what it meant for the women, the people, the leaders, the grinders, the people who were really thriving and believing in this concept that women's sports could not just make it, that it would be a thriving business, that people would come, that people would watch, that people would buy, that people would pay for tickets and people would pay for merch. There was this belief system that existed in the very beginning. And I got to sort of sit as like a coordinator or a marketing manager and be a part of, the beginning. Maybe not exactly the beginning. You mentioned 97, and thank you for your support ever since then. We've got quite a few people who have been around since that time. But I think really that journey, what that's looked like being on the inside, is really just persistence. It's always looking at the North Star being the athletes themselves are undeniable. And the sport could not be denied. It was just a matter of when was it going to finally click. I've often said maybe we were ahead of our time for a couple or at least a decade and a half, and now what we're seeing is the dividends of what that hard work, what that persistence, those diehard fans, and shout out to all the Liberty fans. Even as we will enter our 30th season in a couple of months, there are people who were there since day one, but there are people who showed up just last year. And now the challenge and the really exciting part is to take those two constituents and everything in between and just be celebratory about this fact that everyone does watch women's sports and everyone does truly believe that they're the best in the world at what they do, and they deserve to be lauded for it. It is entertainment at its finest, it's sports at its finest, but it's a community that's created within, not just in New York, amongst this entire league and even the entire ecosystem, I'd say, of women's sports. And it's quite validating and really special to be a part of.
I mean, it's a really unique moment to be in. Watching it from when I was in high school, back in '97, and to see where it's come. I don't think anyone could have even predicted it. And I also think the advent of social media obviously made the storytelling even more unique. And that also leads to, what I love so much about what you all have done at Liberty is how the storytelling is so good. Like, what's the magic that makes the Liberty so unique, and to see other sports teams, men and female, I feel like you guys have really sort of stepped up and beyond your typical like, okay, here are our star players, isn't that cute and cuddly, but there's so much rich and beautiful storytelling that comes out of what you guys do.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to telling the truth. And we had a strong dose of truth serum when the franchise was at its lowest. And what we see now is joy and happiness and community, because that truth really broke us down to our bare bones. Why do we need to exist? Why does New York need a team? And why does the WNBA need a team in New York? When we got down to that brass tacks, it was really about liberation. It was the pride in being an original team. It was about being in New York City and putting on unapologetically as a women's team. And it is about being determined to bring a championship home. We're so proud. We could not be prouder to be, the most recent basketball champions in New York City. One that had been, elusive for a really long time, but really it was the hard times that made this time feel that much more special, and nothing can be phony about it at that point. So an anemic media coverage for many decades, anemic linear broadcast situation, just this sort of naysayer mentality about the fans showing up. That proof of concept, that proof positive that, it's here, like we're here to stay, that was born out of those really lean years. So we want to do it. We want to do it right, but we want to do it in a really, really, really authentic way.
And speaking of that sort of authenticity, what do you think for you, having been in this world for quite some time, was your like moment of reset?
I look at moment of reset as whole person, right? It's the whole self. And so this is deeply personal, but it transferred into my professional life. The reset for me was when I became a mom. In sports, it's widely known. You know, you work long hours. You're there in the office. You're, you know, depending on what role you're in, you're there even after the buzzer has sounded. And there's a lot that goes into that production. There's a lot that goes into the show. And when I became a mom, and my kids are 17 months apart, so I was a mom twice over, very in a short time frame. What is important and what is moving the needle and what is actually driving impact became my everyday North Star. It's like, you know, there is no fluff. There is no, I just need to pay my dues. And no, you better be moving business and you better be doing something, because you have to have the energy to go home and show the same amount of passion and love and energy for family that you do when you're in the office. So for me, that was the biggest reset. I became smarter. I still work hard, but really it became about the optimization of my own time and the optimization of the mind share in which the people on the team that I work with.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I have so many friends who are working moms, and it's the same thing. It's like, if you thought we were really good at prioritizing before, like, let me tell you about how good we've gotten now. Because it's like, I'm leaving at 4. Like, there is no if and or but about it.
Yeah.
And so you optimize your days in really incredible, impactful ways. And so for you, like, thinking about what you were able to do and learn along the way, what do you think you probably tell, like, 18-year-old Keia?
It's another good one, Laura. You're stumping me today. 18-year-old Keia, let me think about this. 18-year-old Keia would have been finishing high school, going to college. I would tell myself to break more rules. I actually still to this day call myself a pretty adamant rule follower, but it is actually the disruption or the getting outside of my comfort zone or being put in situations that really I never imagined for myself that have always had the biggest leaps and bounds, both in career, but just in personal growth. So I would tell myself to be uncomfortable more often instead of shying away from it. I think I did it in certain ways instinctively or just out of necessity. You mentioned 18. I signed early to play at Canisius University to play women's basketball. So I was sort of on this journey, not knowing what I didn't know. And I just think I would have taken a few more risks, or I would encourage myself to take more risks.
Yeah, I know it's interesting. I think we hear this in like social media and on the news about like, okay, folks can't figure out what out they should be doing. And I'm like, yeah, but you kind of should just like go for it.
You should just go.
Like, you're always going to be the first to do a thing. Yeah. It might be the same thing everybody else has done, but you're the first one to do it.
Yes.
So you have no why bother? Like, why not just go for it? Like
100%.
You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And you have everything to gain.
And no shame here, but I share this to help others. I didn't do a single internship when I was in undergrad.
How'd you manage that?
Which is now kind of unheard of, right? But this is late 90s, early 2000s. Wasn't actually mandatory for my bachelor's at the time. And I think I would have learned so much and grown so much and maybe just had a little bit of a better directional, mentality around how I wanted to start my career. As I said, I think it worked out in the end, but there was certainly some sleepless nights and some, what am I going to do when I finish school? And if I'm a planner, so that was difficult for me, but part of it was I had not put myself out there in that way. I had not taken a big risk. I even think about, I have a really good friend from high school who she'd always be adamant that she wanted to play on the football team. She wanted to play on the boys football team in our high school. And we just all sort of laughed it off. And now we see like the surge in flag football for women and, women who work in pro sports, but like specifically football, coaches in football. And she had that passion. And if I were the activist that I claim to be right now, or the feminist, and I've told her, I kind of feel like we let you down. We sort of laughed that away, but it was your truth. And it could have been a reality if we all just took it a little bit more seriously. So I think those are the types of things at 17 or 18 I didn't exactly recognize about myself.
Yeah, I think you don't realize what I don't. I think we forget how powerful we are, and I think when I think back to my internships, as I went to NYU for undergrad, and it was special. Let's put it that way. But I was pre-law, and so I entered at law firms. But then I got this very, very random, like it was during the dot-com boom. So this very, very wealthy woman had this startup all around like licensing. So all of like, licensing Mickey Mouse hat, all that kind of stuff. And somehow I got this internship because it paid an obscene amount of money for a college student. I was like, what? Yeah, okay, I'll do this.
I mean,
And I was in the fashion licensing department because I loved fashion. And the woman who ran that was a consultant, and she was super smart and like took no BS from anyone. And it was the first time I had seen in school or in life a woman who didn't have a corporate background per se, who was just like taking names, and I was like, oh, she sounds really cool. And so I like glued myself to her as much as possible. And when I graduated, and I didn't get into law school, she was the first person I emailed. I'm like, hey, do you have any jobs? And she, you can be my admin. And I became her admin. I was like, I have this degree from NYU. I have 2 degrees. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I learned for 3 years how to be a business leader, like how to take that stuff, take no BS, write really good emails to like be like, this is per my last email. But I think back about like that was such a risk because like everything was like do law, and I was like, well, I'm driven by money. It's like this is the thing, and then it led me on this path to like now when I think about look, I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. Everyone seems to know. It all started from that like I'm going to take this random internship,
Sure.
meet the person, build a relationship because that's the big part about all of this stuff is that relationship building. It's kind of like how we were saying how we have met like 18 different times.
Yes.
And it took a wonderful brunch in Brooklyn.
Yes.
For us to finally sit down and have a chat. Like, but again, taking those risks, putting yourself out there is the key, and we have to sort of remind the young ones and the ones who are our age too. Like, never stop doing that.
Absolutely. And if there's one other commonality here, support roles, just you have so much to gain. And while I think sometimes people sort of shy away from, I'm going to be someone's assistant, I took everything I learned from being in an administrative role on the golf side and propelled that, pushed that into, like you said, writing great emails, being prompt, managing schedules, all of the things.
Now we take for granted now. Like,
We
of
do.
course I can just like spit that out really quickly.
We
Yeah,
do.
because I started doing it when I was like 22
Exactly.
years old.
Exactly.
And like for you, like you're at this really unique moment in women's sports, and for you, like what's the thing that makes you so grateful to be in this moment?
I'm so grateful, I think, because of what I represent that parallels with what the women represent. And that's really this notion of gender equality and racial equality. And it sits at this, just the intersection of all people and inclusivity being praised and lauded and pushed forward. For one of the first times, at least in my lifetime, where I get to witness like the positivity of what it means to stand up and do the right thing and, support what used to be or who used to be deemed the underdog, but to be a part of that ecosystem, to be in the sisterhood that is women's sports with other women leaders, with the athletes themselves, with corporate partners who really are open and talk about what it means to support and be investors at this moment in time, even investors in the team. That's a really special moment where people are literally saying, no, not only do I believe with my dollars. And that's from the person in the last row in the Barclays Center and in 200 level to the person who invests completely and fully.
And like I said, it's a really exceptional moment. And I think about, because all the time I was watching sports growing up and not seeing us, but also not seeing lots of black women. Like it's still rare to see black women at the highest levels who are unapologetic and take no BS from anybody. And How does that feel for you? Like, what on a day-to-day basis where you're like, oh, do I have to today be that strong black woman, or like today I'm gonna be able to chill and put my feet up?
Yeah, it's a reality. I don't know that I wake up every day with a chip on my shoulder about it. It's actually a responsibility, but not one that feels heavy anymore. Mostly because I live with the little people that we're inspiring, right? I have a daughter. I have a son. And I think people naturally think, oh, well, you're such a great role model for Avery. And Avery is going to think that you're so badass and cool, as she gets older. It is actually my son who I deem this is more important for him. And he actually gets more of the feels on seeing women, not just his mother, women do extraordinary things. Like, so now we'll hopefully be rearing a generation, right, that doesn't see women as, inferior in anything, especially not in basketball.
Oh hell no! Well, that's the thing. I think is, and you're so right about like. When I go to Liberty games, I see so many little boys who are there who are like, who wants Dewey jersey, want Natasha Cloud's jerseys, and you're like, that's exactly what we need at this moment. I think everything's a little heavy, and we all are fully aware of it, but like unapologetic joy,
Yes.
and that everyone can feel that kind of stuff is so necessary to help combat like whatever you may see out in the rest of the world. And seeing women as just as badass, and it's not weird. I think that's the biggest part about it.
It's normalized.
It's normal.
That's what, and
It's
so
Tuesday.
that changes things, right? In perpetuity. That changes how men view women as colleagues, as hires, as, this ability to see yourself in someone and give them a chance and give them a shot. That used to come with you need to look exactly like me in many instances. It left some of us who are, from diverse communities on the outs. Someone never says, you know what, let me give you that shot. It can't happen. But now we're sort of broadening the reins, and it becomes more about what you know and how hard you work and how many questions you ask. Are you being curious about learning this business? I'll take someone who's curious over someone who walks through the door and knows everything 10 times over.
Any day.
Because you're going to go further.
Yeah, I mean, the curiosity about all of us is so necessary. Like, I always tell anyone's like, well, how did you do all this? I'm like, I'm mad curious. Like, I just am. It's just it is my vibe. And I don't care about the industry. I'm just genuinely curious about lots of different things. And I never want to stop my level of curiosity. It's interesting because I'm thinking about, we're sitting here having this podcast and how we're dressed. And I love it because I think this is also a big difference than even like 10, 15 years ago.
Sure.
Because I think we're probably a little bit around the same age where it's like, okay, we have to wear a business suit and it's got to have with the buttons, a little double breast and like the super high heels and like you got to have the St. John suit. And it's like, no, now we're here and I have Jordans on, you've got Golden Gooses on.
Yes,
You've
I
got
do.
the fabulous leather. I'm wearing all black designers. That's so liberating and so freeing, but also I think this is also so important for younger folks to see that like you can still be yourself.
Yes.
Like it's so necessary right now. And for you, how are you seeing that like change in this shift of like what is like corporate, what's not corporate?
Yeah. Well, I already clocked earlier. You said you were in high school in 97. So yes, we were in high school at the same time. Class of 99 over here. But yeah, I'm a true believer in that now that I'm in a leadership position, I invite, I entice, I encourage, I want, I need, I'm pushing for the people who work with me to show up as their whole selves. You're going to work that much harder. You're going to think of a solution. You're going to bring an idea. You're going to speak when you may otherwise feel more timid. If you feel like you are yourself and you're not acting like someone else. And that includes your life experience. I want to know, I ask in an interview, where did you grow up? Do you have siblings? Like, I want to sort of know a little bit. I don't have to get all in your business, but I need to know a little bit about you.
Are you human?
Are you human? And there was nothing besides, I guess, just a discipline, and everyone knew I worked for who I worked for at the time. But in my career, I was told you wear a blue suit, a black suit, or a gray suit. You wear a heel that's 2 inches to 3 inches, nothing gaudy, nothing like, and it was sort of like, did that help me to know more or do more? It was also the times, I understand, but now it's like expression. You put on a pair of J's, you put on a pair of Golden Goose, you style it right, that's an expression of who you are. How you show up and wear your hair, potentially the way it grows out of your head, if that's what you like. That was a major turning point for me. I wanted to lock my hair for several years, and I never did it because I didn't think it fit into that box of the blue suit, the black suit, the gray suit. If I'm being told what to wear, certainly
my hair has to be.
It
must be a perm.
My hair should be formidable as well. So that. I don't know if liberation might be too strong of a word, but I think it's just showing up as your whole self. And that expression of who you are helps me to think my own thoughts, even when I'm coming up with ideas for what we're going to do, in a business that requires creativity. In some instances, it just helps push it along the way.
It gives you a level of freedom that I think we forget that we need to have in order for us to actually. If I'm not worried about okay, I have to spend this much time doing this, and this, I have all this other time to find the good elsewhere, do the thing, and also just be. That's why I think that's what I'm saying. You as a leader are such a great example of this because folks need to see C-suite, locks, sneakers,
yes.
and
yes,
there we go.
Absolutely.
It's so very necessary, and I love it. Cause I started wearing sneakers maybe 6-7 years ago, and I remember I spoke at a panel, and someone was like, "Yo, I love your Jordans," and I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "That's the whole point. Now you have something to talk to me about. See,
sure.
Curiosity."
Yeah.
But also you realize I'm not this faraway character. And who does your locks? All those things allow people to see you as much more accessible, but also just human, normal.
Absolutely.
You live on Earth. These things are kind of important.
They are important. They are important. We also work in sports, though, so the whole sneaker culture actually just made sense. So I'm very happy to be here. I won't grovel about the years where we weren't here. It's kind of counterintuitive.
We're gonna let that go.
Yeah, we'll let it go. I always wear sneakers. I just changed into heels when need be at the very last second.
Oh my God! When I think the amount of times I've had to do that over the years, basically got really good leaning against a wall, and then slip off the sneaker, put the heel on, and then run up the stairs, and then wearing stockings. The idea of wearing stockings ever again. What?
Yeah.
Never.
My 13-year-old hasn't worn stockings since she was about 3. Wore them off very early, and I didn't have a reason.
What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? Mommy wants me to work. Actually, no, she doesn't.
Yeah.
It's sorry to the pantyhose industry, but child, please. No. But again, it doesn't reduce in any way, shape, or form your awesomeness. And I just love it so. So my last question for you is, do you have a give and or ask of the audience?
Yeah, I have a give. The brunch where I met Laura was a special one indeed. But also at that brunch, we were there actually for the book signing of 2 individuals, one of which was Alencia Johnson. So I'm about 3/4 of the way through Flip the Table. So that's my give. If you're looking for something that is affirming and assuring that your disruption, your voice, you're not just being invited to a seat at the table and not bringing a folding chair, but literally building a table and figuring the whole thing out. I've been so inspired by everything I've read so far, but I encourage you to get a copy and read that too.
Awesome. That is such a good book. Alencia's amazing. I'm that's, again, gives you the little fire in the belly. I'd be why? No, I'm gonna do this.
Yes.
Well, Keia, it has been an absolute delight to have you on the podcast, and I think, like I said, as a longtime Liberty fan, love that. But more importantly, I just love what you do, what you stand for, how you stand on business, because I find the Liberty to be so innovative in every single thing that they do, and it's just awesome to see. And I'm so delighted to have had you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Laura. You're an inspiration. I'm so glad we met. Do this anytime. I love chatting with you.
Likewise. And that is our show.